for this woman, this is one of the 100 women who have changed history. I mean, there's more than 100 women who changed history, but these are one of the, I guess, the ones who are listed inside most books. But Mary Shelley is one of the women who changed history. And let me show you how she did it. How about we get started? Bada bang bang bang, bada bang bang bang, bada bang da da dun dun dun, da da dun dun dun, da da dun dun dun, da da dun da da dun dun dun. Mary Shelley, creator of Frankenstein. So let's get started, shall we? Clear the whole page. Him. And now! Hi guys, and welcome to a new episode on this channel. And today we will be talking about Mary Shelley. So let's get started on today's episode of the show. Mary Shelley was a very interesting woman. She had an education during her time, which wasn't very usual for a woman at her time, but since her family was a bit powerful, she was expected to have an education. I mean, yeah, she was educated. This was her when she was very young, and she was born on August 30th of 1797. And for that, she was a very lively child. Eventually, at the age of 15 years old, this is where her life really does get interesting. She meets Percy Shelley. At least that's what I'll call him, Percy Shelley. And they met on March of 1814. In 1814, they met and eventually they planned their marriage during the summer of during the 1816, which was called the year without a summer, because this sky was blotted out by a volcanic eruption of a volcanic volcano and it literally cleared out the sky. And so Mary and her friends were forced to stay indoors. And indoors, actually, let's use the notes for this part. Indoors, a guy named Lord Byron proposed a very good challenge to keep everyone entertained. Write the best horror story ever, and you will win the competition. And everyone set out to do it. For Mary Shelley, it was a very different matter. One day, Mary Shelley couldn't think of any ideas and went to bed. And at bed, she overheard Percy and Lord Byron talk about talk about experiments on making people, or at least dead animals, a frog alive again by giving it jolts of electricity. And that night, in Mary Shelley's dreams, she imagined something greater than anyone has ever seen before. Alright, in her dreams, she saw a mechanism that is hooked up to a creature. That, in this case, is actually just yellow. Yes, I was surprised too when I found out that Frankenstein was actually yellowish and that his name was Frankenstein's monster, not Frankenstein. And then a guy just pulled a lever and shot electricity out of the whole mechanism. and created the creature back to life. And that ended her horrifying dream. And also was the reason why she woke up. And she quickly wrote it down, and then next day she started writing a story, the story that will now be known as Frankenstein. Also in the book they did not have these little bolts, and then these little bolts. Actually, they did not have these little bolts, and also he had yellow skin, not green skin, and he had very, very white teeth. And it doesn't really mention if he did have those metal things in his head, but he definitely had black hair. Whoa, what happened? And basically, this is what the Mary Shelley's version of Frankenstein looked like. Well, not exactly, but at least he did have a lot of stitches. It was first published in 1818, and then it was revised, and in the second printing it was published in 1831 with a little bit of a variation of the story of Victor Frankenstein creating a monster, and then, well, being able to create a monster that technically does not have a soul. And that led up to many, many, many movies. And the first ever Frankenstein movie was created by, well, surprisingly, one of the greatest inventors of all time, Thomas Edison. He created the very first film of Frankenstein. The very first film of Frankenstein. Although he probably did not like it. It caught on, and since then, there was 130 movies made. And so now we have 130 movies. Or should it be 131? Oh well. Whatever it is, it's definitely not something to worry about. These are just some of the movies that have been created. And then here is very much there was a very, very popular movie created in 2015, I, Frankenstein, with Aaron Eckhart. Well, like this guy, and 200 years later he's still alive. This is actually one of my favorite Frankenstein movies all time. Also probably the only one I've ever seen. And it's just, well, awesome. And according to John Green, because I didn't really check the Rotten Tomatoes, it's 85% on the Rotten Tomatoes site. That's pretty good. Or is it John Green? Okay, other than about this, let's talk about something else than these Frankensteins. After trying to publish 4 more books, none as successful as Frankenstein, she died after Percy Shelley died, and her legacy still lives on. And that is the basic life of Mary Shelley. A very, very oversimplified version, but at least something useful to make of. Just make sure that everything in this video, well, might not be true, because we don't know history that much. Or as much as we think it is, we don't know it that much. So be warned, if there's new information that will most likely outdate this video, go on to that new information than this outdated video. And this is the end of this book. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you guys did enjoy this episode, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And now let's get going, because I am going to say goodbye. Subscribe, like, ring the bell button. Oh, and don't forget to share. See ya, bozos. Bang, 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 bang. Like. Ring bell button, subscribe, share.